Egypt was doing the impossible. And then, in the space of about half an hour, that dream turned into the loudest controversy this World Cup has produced so far. On July 7th in Atlanta, something happened that has football fans across the world asking the same uncomfortable question: was this a fair result, or was there something else going on behind the scenes? Egypt's head coach didn't just lose in dramatic fashion. He stood in front of cameras afterward and said, in plain words, that the world champions' win was rigged and that officiating made sure of it. Now, before you make up your mind, let's actually walk through what happened on that pitch, because the full story is a lot more complicated than any headline can capture. Was there really outside interference at play here, or is this just heartbreak talking after one of the most painful collapses in recent World Cup memory? Stick around, because by the end of this, you're going to have a much clearer picture of what actually went down. So, what's really happening here? Quick thing before we dive in, if this is your first time on this channel, go ahead and hit subscribe, because we're breaking down every major World Cup 2026 story as it happens, and this one is far from over. Let's set the scene properly. This was a round of 16 match at Atlanta Stadium, Argentina versus Egypt, played on July 7th. The winner would move on to the quarterfinals. The loser would go home. Argentina arrived at this stage having won all 3 of their group matches, with Lionel Messi still leading the line for the defending champions, chasing his own piece of World Cup history. Egypt arrived as the underdog story of the tournament, a nation that has never reached this far in a men's World Cup before, built around the experience of captain Mohamed Salah. For the first hour, Egypt looked like the better side by a wide margin. Center-back Yasser Ibrahim headed home an early goal in the 15th minute to put the Pharaohs ahead. Then, midway through the second half, forward Mustafa Zico appeared to double the lead, finishing off a pass from Salah to make it 2-0. At that point, Argentina's title defense looked like it was hanging by a thread. Fans inside the stadium were stunned. Commentators were already calling it one of the biggest upsets of the tournament. Then, everything changed. VAR stepped in. The match referee was sent to the pitch-side monitor to review the build-up to Egypt's second goal. After a lengthy check, the goal was disallowed. The review found that an Egyptian defender had fouled an Argentine player in the build-up more than 20 seconds before the ball actually hit the net. That single decision is where this entire controversy really begins. It's worth remembering how both teams even got here. Argentina cruised through the group stage with 3 wins out of 3, while Egypt needed a gritty run through the round of 32 just to reach this stage, the furthest the nation has ever gone in a men's World Cup. That context matters because it's part of why this match meant so much more than a normal knockout tie. A win here would have been the single biggest result in Egyptian football history. Here's where things get interesting. A 20-second gap between a foul and a goal is unusual for VAR to reach back and cancel out. Most disallowed goals come from something in the immediate build-up, not 2 phases of play earlier. That's part of why so many people, including neutral pundits watching the match, felt the call was harsh. One Egyptian football analyst said on radio afterward that there's been real inconsistency with VAR at this tournament, and that the foul itself was minor enough that wiping out the goal felt like a stretch. But that's only part of the story. In the chaos that followed, Egypt's head coach raised both arms and crossed them into an X shape right in front of the referee. That gesture isn't random. It's FIFA's official signal for reporting racist abuse on the pitch, a signal that's supposed to trigger a set process, starting with pausing the match to investigate. By most accounts from the match, the referee did not respond to the gesture in the moment. Play continued. The Egyptian coach was booked for his protest rather than being heard out. Under the standard anti-discrimination protocol used in top-level football, the next steps after that gesture are supposed to be a formal stoppage, a warning announced to the crowd, and if it happens again, suspending the match entirely. None of that appeared to unfold here. Then, in the 94th minute, right as the match was boiling over, a member of Egypt's own coaching staff was sent off with a red card. Think about it from Egypt's side for a second. They're leading against the defending champions. Their coach raises a serious concern using FIFA's own protocol, and it appears to be waved off. Then their bench gets punished on top of it. It's not hard to see why frustration boiled over the way it did. Now, was there actually a racist incident on the pitch? That part remains unclear. Neither FIFA nor Argentina's federation has publicly confirmed what specifically triggered the gesture. What is confirmed is that the gesture was made and that it wasn't visibly addressed on the pitch in real time, and that's where a football story stops being just about a scoreline and starts becoming about how officials handle serious accusations in front of a global audience. If you're finding this breakdown useful so far, drop a like and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel keep covering every twist of this World Cup as it unfolds. But the story doesn't stop with the disallowed goal. What happened over the next 25 minutes turned this into one of the most talked about matches of the entire tournament. Despite the setback, Egypt held on to their 2-0 lead until the 80th minute. Then Argentina, needing a miracle to keep their title defense alive, produced one of the great comebacks in recent World Cup history. Christian Romero pulled one back. Messi leveled the score in the 83rd minute, a goal that tied him with a scoring record that had stood since 1930. Then Enzo Fernandez struck the winner in the 92nd minute to make it 3-2. With that goal against Egypt, Messi also moved to the top of the World Cup's all-time scoring charts, becoming the leading goal scorer in the tournament's history across 6 different World Cups. For Argentina, it was pure theater. For Egypt, it was devastating. After the final whistle, Egypt's head coach didn't hold back. Speaking to a Middle Eastern broadcaster, he suggested that officiating decisions may have gone Argentina's way because the tournament benefits from Messi staying in the competition longer. In his own words, he said this was clearly a rigged match and that the whole world saw it. He also asked, why are teams even invited to compete if the outcome favors one side this heavily? Forward Mustafa Zico echoed a similar sentiment, saying Egypt was, in his words, hard done by the referees and that the match felt rigged from the moment they went up 2-0. Here's where a bit of history helps. This isn't the first officiating storm at this World Cup. Earlier in the tournament, a red card shown to a United States forward during the group stage sparked its own controversy after FIFA initially suspended him, then reversed the suspension using a technical rule. That decision frustrated European federations just as much as this one has frustrated Egyptian fans now. The bigger issue is this. Every major tournament that leans on VAR ends up facing questions about consistency. FIFA insists the technology exists to get the big decisions right, but when calls seem to swing in favor of star-studded teams like Argentina, doubt spreads fast, whether or not there's any real truth behind it. Now, to be fair, there's a counterpoint worth mentioning too. Some analysts have pointed out that Egypt still conceded 3 goals in the final 25 minutes of the match, and that no VAR decision forced that collapse. A rigged match is a serious accusation, and right now it remains just that, an accusation. Before we keep going, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. More World Cup breakdowns are coming all the way through the final on July 19th. Let's talk about what this actually meant on the human side of things, because behind every controversial call, there are real players and real fans living through it. For Mohamed Salah and Egypt's squad, this was a shot at reaching a stage the country has never touched before in a men's World Cup. The heartbreak wasn't just about a scoreline, it was about a golden opportunity slipping away in the final 25 minutes. Salah, now well into his 30s, may never get another chance at a World Cup quarterfinal. For a player of his stature who has given so much to the sport without ever lifting this trophy, that reality makes the ending even harder to swallow for Egyptian fans. For Lionel Messi, this match added another chapter to what's already being called one of the greatest individual World Cup runs ever. He missed a penalty earlier in the match, his second missed spot kick of the tournament, but still walked away with the equalizer and a new scoring record. Argentina's manager was seen in tears after the final whistle, admitting how proud he was of this group of players for finding a way back from the brink, a stark contrast to the frustration playing out on the Egyptian side just yards away. Fans on both sides felt every second of it. Egyptian supporters flooded social media, accusing officials of favoritism. Argentine fans, meanwhile, were simply relieved their team had survived what looked like a certain elimination. Would this have felt different if the disallowed goal call had gone the other way? Almost certainly. Sports fans tend to judge officiating fairness based on outcomes, not just the letter of the rules. When a big call breaks against the underdog and the favorite goes on to win anyway, accusations of bias always get louder, fair or not. If this kind of honest breakdown is what you're here for, go ahead and subscribe. It costs nothing and it helps this channel keep growing. So, where does this go from here? For Egypt, the tournament is over. The coach's comments will likely fade from headlines within days, especially since there's no indication FIFA plans to launch a formal investigation into the officiating beyond its standard post-match review. For Argentina, the run continues. They now face Switzerland in the quarterfinals on July 11th in Kansas City, a team that's gone unbeaten in 11 straight matches and plays a disciplined, hard-to-break-down style. If they get through that, a semifinal against the winner of Norway and England awaits in Atlanta, with the final scheduled for July 19th at MetLife Stadium. On the other side of the bracket, teams like France, Morocco, Spain, and Belgium are still fighting for their own path to that same final, which means the road ahead for Argentina is only going to get tougher, regardless of how this particular controversy plays out. Messi, meanwhile, remains the man to watch for the Golden Boot, sitting at the top of the tournament scoring charts as the quarterfinals approach. The best-case scenario here is fairly simple. FIFA quietly reviews its VAR consistency behind the scenes. Referees get clearer guidance on how far back they can go to disallow a goal, and the anti-racism gesture protocol gets followed to the letter every single time it's used, regardless of the score or the stakes. The worst realistic scenario is that this becomes just another forgotten controversy, filed away next to every other disputed call this tournament has already produced, with no real change in how officials are trained or reviewed going forward. What FIFA does next matters more than anything said in a post-match interview, because if this tournament keeps producing star-powered comebacks off the back of contentious calls, the rigged narrative isn't going away, whether it's fair or not. Quick reminder to subscribe if you want to stay updated as the quarterfinals kick off this weekend, with 4 huge matches on the line. So let's bring this all together. Egypt led this match twice, had a legitimate-looking goal wiped off the board after a VAR review that even neutral experts questioned, watched their coach's anti-racism gesture go unanswered, and then lost control of a game they were 25 minutes away from winning. Argentina, for their part, showed exactly why they're the defending champions, producing a comeback for the ages behind Messi and a hungry supporting cast that refused to accept elimination. Was it rigged? There's no solid evidence to support that claim, but was it controversial? Without question. So what do you think? Was the Egyptian coach right to call this out publicly, or did Egypt's collapse in the final 25 minutes have nothing to do with officiating at all? Which team do you think benefits most from how VAR has been used so far at this World Cup? Drop your take in the comments because this conversation isn't slowing down anytime soon. And if you want to stay on top of every controversy, every comeback, and every headline through the rest of this tournament, make sure you're subscribed before you go.